a business framework for considering environmental issues and social issues in the context of governance. Broadly speaking, that is what ESG is all about. But what does that really mean? How are businesses embracing sustainability and responsible practices? Why is it more crucial than ever? And what is its impact in Malaysia? I'm Azaria Tagaya, and this is Money Matters. Hello there and welcome to Money Matters on your favorite channel right here on TV3. And we're also available on HD via Tonton. And today we're talking about environmental social governance ESG with the President of the ESG Association of Malaysia, Cheah Kok Hoong. Hello there, Mr. Cheah. Thank you so much for joining us on Money Matters this week.
Yes, thank you for inviting.
Thank you, thank you. It is our pleasure, indeed. Yes. And we're talking about environmental social governance, ESG, yes, as I mentioned just now.
Yes.
And we know that the government has announced that it will introduce a framework on ESG standards very soon. And what we understand so far is that the framework aims to assist small and medium enterprises, SMEs, in terms of funding, capacity building, and also the transition to renewable energy. So I guess the question here now is, are businesses in Malaysia actually ready for ESG due diligence?
Thank you. Yes, government announced, for example, recently Prime Minister announced the new industrial master plan 2030, that Mission 3 with a title of Push to Zero. This is with intention to really comply to the global standard. However, as you mentioned, the SMEs, do you know how many SMEs in the country? By register of company, there's a 1.5 million of company registered. And out of that, about thousands is public listed company. About 4,700 is about MNCs. And many of them belongs to the SME group. Or some would say 98% or even bigger, the percentage. And many of them not able, while post-pandemic, post-COVID is talking about sustaining the business. If you're talking about the compliance to the ESG, that is, you're adding an extra burden to them. That's why I'm happy or proud what government is going towards this right direction, whereby they really wanted to help SMEs. And end of the day, for the cost of compliances, whether the buyer should pay or the seller should pay. There is $1 million question, right? And how about government? What kind of incentive? You mentioned about the financing. If it's really the pure green financing, and what would take for SME to compliance to this green financing? They still remain questions.
I see. Yeah, indeed. And when we're talking about ESG businesses moving towards ESG, investors as well, both domestic and internationally, are looking for ESG aligned investments. So in terms of this, what do you see as, how can investors use the ESG data to actually make more informed decisions? And also, at the same time, what are some of the trends you're seeing right now in terms of ESG related investments in the country?
When we talk about ESG data, we must understand the context of manual data and digitized data. For now, Bursa is pushing, already have this sustainability statement. And many companies have started. Based on the research, there are good news about 25% about the survey, based on the survey information, that the data are ready. However, 75%, where are the data? And which system we supposed to use? And which computer system we supposed to use to lock down or to capture the ESG data?
When we're talking about ESG, we know that ESG is a main driver of innovation. So
Yes.
we can see a lot of companies are developing sustainable products, technologies. We have electric vehicles.
Yes.
We have renewable energy solutions, just to name a few. So what are you saying? What would you say would be the way that companies, how have you seen companies leverage on ESG to actually drive innovation in their respective businesses?
Of course, one of the biggest organizations in the country, or one of the only Malaysian really in the Fortune 100 is none other than Petronas. Yeah, I was very fortunate to have, together with the president of Petronas, together in an event. And I really, is an eye-opener to me. The event organized by Yayasan Samdabi and UKM, are all there. And when the president of Petronas mentioned by 2040, Petronas might no longer an oil company, I was shocked. Then of course, then he explained about why. And really, this homegrown, our giant enterprise is really thinking about forward. And with that forward, this is called a backcasting, or with end in mind, come back to where we are now.
Yeah.
They're really thinking where now to really innovate their processes, the product, and the deliverables. That's why they came out on many other products, whether Jandari and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And this is something good. And of course, the SME or some listed company or Kwan Chong, they are cocoa. They are cocoa company. And I was so touched by the story sharing that they want to help the farmer. They want to really preserve the Mother Earth. How the use of fertilizer and so on is all into the thought process. Of course, back in another local conglomerates, they're doing very well. Of course, none other than Sunway Group. They're talking about really sustainable city, the water reuse. They're even at one time talking about the energy and so on and so forth. Right. So this is another good company. That one time I read from the news. They say, the group CEO said, I want to plant 1 million of trees. My goodness. Which tycoon committed in the news, I wanted to plant the tree. And the other good story from the northern side, and there's a mangrove trees. And there's a group of investors wanted to take away the mangrove tree for some shrimp farming, for agriculture. However, one of the scientists that get some funding to study the entire ecosystem and present to the authority and so on, guess what? End of day, the project are called off.
I see.
So there's a lot of such good news is going around, the positive vibes. So as a NGO, ESG Association of Malaysia, our role is to keep trumpeting and sharing this kind of news, whether it's in the TV, in the radio, in the social media, that there's a lot of things our industry and government is doing.
Definitely.
But somehow, it's still a lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Indeed, definitely. A lot of good examples that you gave there just now, and that's what we want to see, driving sustainability and driving innovation as well at the same time. Well, Mr. Cheah, it's time for us to go for a little short break. When we come back, we want to find out how are companies benefiting from leveraging on ESG innovations in their businesses. That and more when Money Matters returns. back with us on Money Matters, Environmental Social Governance, ESG. That is our topic today, and we are with the President of the ESG Association of Malaysia, Cheah Kok Hoong. Now, Mr. Cheah, before the break, we were talking about how companies and businesses in Malaysia so far have been evolving together with ESG initiatives. So we want to know, at the same time, how are consumers reacting to this as well? So how are consumer preferences actually evolving in relation to how companies are adopting ESG practices?
Thanks. Based on the recent survey, one of the survey, there are many surveys, by the way. One of the surveys that conducted to the consumer, there's about 78% of the consumer preference. They will make the purchase decision based on ESG or based on SDG related.
Yeah,
I think that is a good news. I mean, we also a consumer. While we wanted to do best for ourselves, and let's say my own family, they will think twice before they purchase. They think about the product label. Have you ever purchased something, you look at the product label?
of course, every
you
time.
read too?
Yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I think this is the first and foremost important. And then the next thing about this ESG, especially the generation gate and the young generation, they want their thought process and our thought process is different. And ESG compliances or sustainability compliance means that this is doing good to the Mother Earth. And if any one of us or every one of us doing the similar thing means that the producer, the production, the principal, right, they will be more alert or more aware or more stringent into the outcome of their products.
I see, yeah.
Before they reach to the consumer.
Yeah, but yeah, you were saying that consumers, we go through stuff, we read the labels first, and it's important to gain that consumer trust and that consumer loyalty. So how are the companies actually communicating with these consumers to let them know about their ESG initiatives?
Oh, yes. Thanks for this good question. I'm not sure whether you have read numbers of YouTube, numbers of social media about Apple iPhone.
Yeah, I have. Over the past few days, that's all I can see on social media.
And if you read one of the social media I read, and I realized that there's two groups of people. While one group of say they are proud this what Apple do, what by 2030 going to the net zero carbon, and the other group will say this is no more innovation, this is like a very boring product, and so on. I'm not here to promote Apple, but as a company, they really go all the way out for this sustainability and the ESG matter. And I want to point out one point here. And out of this Sustainability Development Goal 17, the SDG 12, there's not much emphasis about consumer. And SDG 12 is talking about responsible consumption and production. Thank you for asking that question, consumer. And by looking at our policy maker and so on, which policy is really approaching the SDG 12?
Yeah.
I don't think so. While some of the organic product, they're talking about this organic, fertilizer and so on. But as a broad base, as a country, I do not think we have done sufficiently on this SDG goal number 12.
So how can companies actually benefit from leveraging on ESG initiatives? Sorry.
Definitely benefiting. You also mentioned just now about green financing.
Yeah.
Right. In business, we need to have capital.
Yeah.
And many a time, we need funding. And when globally the topic becoming real, it's not myths anymore. And this green financing definitely is crucial. Which means if I want to lend the money, I want to borrow the money, I need to have certain compliance on the standard. That's number one. Number two, you're talking about consumer, right? And the branding, the positioning is a socially responsible enterprise or country. So this is branding, positioning is very critical. Number three, when you're going through the process, this is like a innovation or process improvement or process re-engineering. It is no harm to relook at your process and how can you do it better. If you can do it all over again, how can you do it better? This is something like, I can name a few. I can continue to mention.
Yeah, definitely. But we also want to know, what are some of the challenges that these companies might face in actually adopting ESG practices in their operations?
Good. I mentioned just how there are about thousands of standards.
Yeah.
And I mentioned also about we have 1.5 million registered company. And I did not mention, which I don't know as well, how many business vertical. Oil and gas, example. I mentioned about Guangzhou, cocoa industry. I mentioned about Sunway, conglomerates. I mentioned about another also in property construction business. But there are many other businesses. So which standard can apply into that vertical business? That becoming uncertain or gray area. However, what government did, they're trying their very best, or even the capital market recently, I attended their dialogue and so on. They launched this simplified ESG guidelines. I say this is a good way of starting.
Yeah.
And everything start with the simple step. And why simple step? Easy to understand, easy to get buy-in, easy to get adopted.
Yeah.
And also the investment into this simple mindset is rather relatively cost lower. So I think this is very critical for SME.
Yes, I agree as well.
So,
simple steps, small steps moving forward, and this is what we want to see in the future. But that is the big question as well. What is in the future for ESG in Malaysia? We'll get back to that after the break, Mr. Cheah. Now we're going for another short breather. Don't go anywhere. Money Matters will be back after this. Thank you so much for staying with us on this show. We appreciate you spending time with us on Money Matters this week as we talk about ESG with the President of the ESG Association of Malaysia, Cheah Kok Hoong. Now, Mr. Cheah, we've been talking so far about, with all that you've shared so far, we see how ESG is actually transforming Malaysia's business ecosystem, how it is actually changing the way that businesses are operating. So, in your opinion, Mr. Cheah, what is the future of ESG in Malaysia? How do you see the role of ESG actually evolving over time in the country?
I must say the public-private partnership is very critical. As a rakyat, as a government should play a pivotal role in initiating and setting the right direction for the country.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, as an industry, as an ecosystem, it's equally important that we must do the alignment with the government. Yeah. Of course, the business survivability is very critical. Number three, you talk about the consumer just now.
Yeah.
The consumer is also important. That's not about willing buying, willing selling. It's the consumer mindset. They understanding the importance of ESG, and they make a choice. If the product, services, and company doesn't comply to it, whereby the consumer will make a decision. This is not only really strict to the consumer, whereby the business-to-business partnership also important. Number four, not number four about the least important. Number four is academic, our future generation. Saya sudah tua. Yeah.
Same here, Mr.
So
Cheah.
the next generation is so critical and important.
I agree.
What will be the academician and the education sector is to plant the seed, right? Is to promote the importance of this. Without that, I think we will have a disjoint, right? So why I say it's collectively critical. Like if I want to say, industry might include media or exclude media like TV3.
Yeah.
So as a media, I'm so thankful that the invitation from you all, I mean, this is my virgin show in the TV, ESG. However, I felt heartfelt gratitude to TV3, frankly, that you all started this talk. And I hope will not end by myself. There are many of the experts out there that he or she should get invited to continue to broadcast, to continue to instill these important topics.
And expand the discussion,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is one of the power of the media. And used in the right way, we will get the right outcomes.
Definitely, definitely. Now, Mr. Cheah, Southeast Asian countries as well are looking for ways to initiate regional collaboration and in terms of seeking to align the standards and also promote the best practices in terms of ESG. So in this respect, what role can Malaysia play here?
At Malaysia, as very strategic location and a country, of course, we have many advantages. And with now, the dust have settled with the stability of the government. This is number one. Number two, it's time to act together. Whether I mentioned about public-private partnership. And let's position this country are taking a serious note into this ESG topic. Number three, we have a lot of framework, whether it's a RCEP, CTPPP, TTP. All this is giving us an opportunity to voice up Malaysia context and the aspiration or inspiration of the country. We are walk the talk and talk the walk.
What would be your expectations or sort of your wish list, so to speak, for ESG initiatives and strategies for the upcoming 2024 budget tabling?
Yeah, thank you for it. We went to information seeking. For example, days ago, I attended the KKT town hall by YB Fahmi. And it's good that he really invite all the industry players, especially those technology related, that hopefully government will really, as I say, not about asking money for the government for the sake of it. And this is very important, the few things about the awareness and about the qualification or building up the capacity. Building up the capacity means that the company, the employee in the company, they must be trained. They must know what they don't know. And this is involved in a full spectrum of training and certification. Right? This is number one. And this is talking about money. Whether it's a HRD Corp, whether it's a MIDI export, whether it's a KKD, all these importance come. Of course, the funding, what the amount is, I have no idea. I cannot, off the cuff, I tell you the amount of it. But this is very important. Number two, and how to collaborate among the government ministry. We talk about few agencies, right?
Yeah.
And we, as a country, we cannot go forward with multiple policy, multiple standard. And what I know that some government agency trying to develop, and I really wish in the budget have certain conversion, okay, led by certain lead government agency, so that the funding are used, are being optimized.
Yeah, there has to be collaboration there as well.
Yes, the collaboration is very critical. Then number three, we as an NGO or non-profit organization, our objective is established is really to amalgamate and to be the voice of industry. And we wanted to get the dialogue and continue dialogue with the policymaker. What will be the pain point by the industry? Then we can bring this up to the policymaker, the decision maker. Then what will be the right policy that able to apply and help the needful, not help the non-needed.
Yes, definitely. So driving innovation, driving Malaysia forward, and also collaboration between agencies and government agencies and regional collaboration as well. We hope to see more of that in the future. Mr. Cheah, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate your time sharing with us. You said you were thankful for us, but we are actually thankful that you were able to share with us. It's been a very eye-opening discussion today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that was Cheah Kok Hoong, President of the ESG Association of Malaysia, joining us. A big thank you once again to our guests. And thank you to you as well for staying with us throughout the show. You have been with Money Matters. If you missed the earlier part of today's episode, you can always catch it up on Tuntun. Be sure to join us again next week, same time, right here on TV3. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching and have a great weekend.